Hey everybody, Mike Miller, Herald Times, joined by columnist Jeremy Price here at Assembly Hall once again after Indiana's 63-62 win over Michigan State. They did it again.
Can we call them the Heart Attack Hoosiers now, because it's kind of become a thing?
It has become a thing. It has absolutely become a thing. Tom Izzo saying after the game felt Michigan State outplayed him for 38 minutes, but such is the beauty of basketball. You can make a furious comeback, and you can even argue that 38 minutes remark, but you probably argue a lot of things Tom Izzo said after the game today. It sounds like some excuses were coming out.
Yeah, it was very interesting if you take the time to watch it. A lot of excuses, a lot of kind of whining. I thought it was kind of strange.
I'll be honest, I don't sit next to a lot of Big Ten benches, but I did sit next to the Michigan State bench today, and I was actually pretty surprised with the amount of whining that came out. And I'm not saying this, I'm saying this as a pretty neutral observer of Big Ten basketball, but had a similar seat when Michigan was here. Didn't hear anywhere near the amount of whining that went on in the game as the whining we heard from Michigan State today. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. Indiana gets the win. It's second straight over a ranked opponent, second straight overall. First time they've won back-to-back games since January 3rd. Suddenly you're looking at a team that I think, as you said in your column, they're not dead yet, and even with that, there's still plenty to play for over these next couple weeks.
Yeah, they've not. I mean, they haven't accomplished anything yet either. So I mean, it goes both ways there. But finally, this team showed some life against Purdue, and then showed some life at Iowa, but still wasn't getting the results. So to finally get some results this week against Wisconsin and Michigan State is another step in the right direction. And you look back at it now, and you really think to yourself, if this team had played with this kind of effort and intensity during that month-long drag they had, basically, they'd probably be a lot closer to 500 in the Big Ten at this point. And you'd think you'd pull some of those out as much as things weren't going IU's way for much of this season, at least in January and early February.
Yeah.
That it would have balanced out in the end, but this team took too many mental vacations in there, and that's what really dug them the hole. And now they're not taking mental vacations. Now I did think they turned up the level in the second half, much more so than the first half. The first half was a little hit and miss.
Yeah, definitely so.
I thought, not that the effort wasn't there. I don't know if the focus or the intensity was quite where you need it to be, and maybe that's not totally unexpected, the way things have been going for this team. I mean, when you keep finding yourself in grinders, 1-point, 2-point games, you're coming off a double overtime game against Wisconsin. I don't know if it's a surprise that maybe it takes a little bit of something to get going, but I also think Michigan State had a lot to do with that. They came out very focused and obviously very intent on repaying the favor from East Lansing, but they didn't really sustain it, and that was part of Tom Izzo's complaint, that they ran out of gas, that they've got injuries and not enough bodies available, which I found deeply ironic against an Indiana team that certainly isn't going to feel sorry for anyone else the way things have gone this year.
No doubt about it. Maybe as surprising as anything is just Indiana's success on the boards. Didn't start out that way.
No.
Michigan State, obviously, as you said, came out playing fast, playing hard, playing as you kind of expect Michigan State to play. But by the end of it, you look at the box score, Indiana out-rebounded on 31-30, had 15 offensive boards, now have had 35 offensive boards between the two games this season in the series sweep. Really just surprising, kind of giving. I guess once again, really, I mean, whether it was rebounding, whether it was shooting, again, Indiana answered to its weaknesses in this game, much as it did in the first one. I don't remember how many three-pointers
they hit 10 threes the first game. They finished with 9 today. Yeah. Izzo mentioned that in the press conference, kind of lamenting that for whatever reason Indiana seems to find its stroke. And I guess that's sort of a backdoor way of where we've kind of buried the lead here. Justin Smith.
Yeah. We're going to get there eventually. Let's get there now. Where did this come from? I'm not sure. This only, 8 days ago, he was watching the final 25 minutes of the IU-Iowa game from the bench. Didn't get off the bench after halftime of that game, which at that point was the latest in a string of really underwhelming performances from Justin Smith. Really hadn't played well since the Michigan State game. Then Deron Davis gets sick. He's thrust into the lineup on Tuesday against Wisconsin. I thought played really well. Early on, it was one of those mentioned kind of stacking back-to-back efforts in that game with guys kind of feeding off each other in that Wisconsin game. Well, Justin Smith kind of really started out in that game, just hitting shots and kind of giving them an offensive presence. Well, built on that today, hit several shots, had 13 of IU's first 14 points. I think one of the thing with Justin Smith that I think has been so maddening at times is that he almost seems to be at his worst when he is playing as if he thinks the offense should flow through him, whether it's taking poor shots or rushing things or just kind of doing things that he shouldn't be doing within the framework of any offense. But Indiana needed him to make some shots, and he was aggressive and confident, and I think taking some initial shots, making some initial shots, and including a couple from three early on, I think really fed his confidence and kind of gave him a green light, personal green light, to keep hunting shots as those around him were struggling to do so.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you sort of unintentionally hit on it there. The biggest problem for Justin Smith is when he's thinking out there, and today it didn't feel like he was thinking the game so much as he was just playing the game. When he got an open shot, he went up with it right away instead of jab stepping or faking or thinking about, should I take this, should I not take this, am I in trouble if I take this? No, he just took the shot. And when you play free and confident, it's surprising sometimes how many shots somehow find a way to go in for him. And hit 4 3-pointers all season, 3 3-pointers today. If you could bottle that and continue it, I mean, I think that would be great. I don't think anyone expects that by any stretch of the imagination. But by the same token, if you're just some sort of offensive threat, which is what this team needs, is somebody that's a threat besides Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan. And I think we've increasingly seen over the last few weeks teams collapsing on Juwan Morgan and really limiting his opportunities to, frankly, offensive rebounds is probably 80% of the offense for Juwan Morgan right now. And I think the other factor there is Juwan Morgan, I think, is probably more hurt than anybody wants to let on, because he's clearly not been himself since that
Didn't look like himself
injury
today
at Michigan State. And I was figuring up his three-point percentage. He's actually, thanks to going 1 of 2 today, he's 4 of 25 from 3. That's an outstanding 16% since that injury at Michigan State. He was 20 of 53 on the season before that. So I've seen a huge dip in his three-point shooting, and I can't help but think there's some sort of correlation there. So just having Justin Smith step up and do something, anything, be aggressive. And I thought he was good in transition today, too. Sometimes in transition he's trying to do too much or get too fancy or complicated, and he was just, direct line, go to the basket, make the layup, draw the foul, whatever it needed to be. So a lot of good things for him today. And then you had his partner in crime, the other guy that probably, the two guys that are probably most maligned on this team are the two guys that stepped up today, Justin Smith and Devontae Green.
Yeah, no, Devontae Green, once again, just as he did in East Lansing, had a knack for hitting shots, kind of gave Indiana that jolt from the perimeter, hitting big shots, too. Big shots, and 11 of his 13 points came in the second half, 3 3-pointers, and they were timely 3-pointers, too. Just came when Indiana's looking at 5, 6, 7-point deficits. You hit a shot, the crowd's right back in it, and really the team just seemed to feed off of that. It was interesting, too. Do you think we're seeing just tighter rotations at this point, too? Because you look at some of the guys who did not play today, it seems like Archie's kind of committed to riding his guys at this point. I think Race Thompson played a minute. Evan Fitzer didn't get off the bench. And again, I think Race Thompson is an important piece to this team, but I just thought it was interesting just kind of looking at the rotations and the guys who did and didn't play today.
I think that's very much matchup-oriented for this team right now, and depending on who they're playing. Obviously, with Michigan State having a fairly short bench of their own today, you could basically go 7-on-7 for the most part in this game, so I think that had a lot to do with it. I also think against Wisconsin, Thompson could really use his ability to body up and be physical and defend and rebound, and today against Michigan State, where they're going to spread the floor a little more, and Kenny Goins is going to step out and shoot that 3 and those kind of things. I don't think that's as much of a comfort level, especially with them doing so much ball screen work with Cassius Winston and things. I'm not sure it was quite in his wheelhouse as much, and I think that's a little bit of the reticence of Archie Miller to stick him in there. Deron Davis clearly, he didn't start again. Apparently, he's been sick all week. Still somewhat sick today. He looked sick in the first half. He looked a little more like himself in the second half. I thought if he was still struggling coming out to start the second half, we might see a lot more of Race Thompson, but we didn't. And this is probably, as far as Devontae Green, probably the most minutes he's played in I don't know when. Probably maybe that last Michigan State game for that matter.
Maybe.
Al Durham didn't play as many minutes today, and so obviously Archie Miller's trying to ride a hot hand if he finds one. At this point, you can't blame him because there aren't too many options in that regard. And today was one of those days you take what you can get out of Devontae, even if it's a no, yes kind of three-pointer, which is kind of that last one he hit on the right wing there, which was a huge shot, but it was one of those that was like that really wasn't a good shot, but it went in, so it's okay. So. But that's what you're going to live with. I mean, that's who Devontae Green is. He's going to shoot until he decides he's done.
Yeah, whether it's a three or not, you're usually saying, "Oh, no." Okay, yeah, okay. All right. So here we are. Indiana now is what are they over?
15 and 14.
14, and we're not even going to get into the conference thing because it's
6 wins in the conference.
Although I guess at this point they're playing their way out of the Wednesday game in Chicago.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're trying at least. It's probably, I don't know how to really even begin or even discuss postseason at this point, but at the very least, it's to some degree, while the NCAA tournament remains a pipe dream to a point, I think you're at least back. You can have the conversation because now you're looking at if you can run the table next week, if you can win at Illinois, which I don't think will be easy at all.
No.
If you can come back home and follow up a potential win with a win over Rutgers, and then get a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, you've at least positioned yourself to be back on the bubble, or at least have the conversation about the teams around them. Because again, if Indiana does find itself back on the bubble, no one's going to have as many quad one wins as Indiana. Indiana has 6, potentially 7 if Butler maybe figures something out here again. But again, you're there. But this game on Thursday at Illinois is going to be huge. I mean, it's just as hard as Indiana has played in recent days, it's going to be absolutely put to the test against an Illinois team that, for all of its warts, typically always plays hard and fouls on every possession and is really going to get you in a game of tackle basketball. So it's going to be, obviously it is you got to win that game.
To make it a game in the 40s again on Thursday night.
Really
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I mean, 47, 45 could absolutely be it over in Champaign. So, you can at least start to think about what it would take to get into that NCAA tournament conversation, postseason conversation. But absolutely, you got to run the table from here. You got to build off this. You can't just, you can't stand pat with a win over, Wisconsin, Michigan State. You gotta win Illinois, and obviously you gotta close it down at home against Rutgers. So, huge game on Thursday night.
Well, look, here's the deal. I was coming down for the post-game press conference. There were a lot of fans having the same discussion. Well, if we win the rest of these last 2 games, and we win 2 games in the Big Ten, or we win 3 games in the Big Ten tournament, or whatever, and I let one girl piped up and said, "How about we just enjoy this one today?" And I thought that probably was the best advice of the day. Just enjoy the win you've got today, and see what happens from here. Because the way this season has gone, clearly counting on anything to happen one way or the other, any kind of expectations for this season were thrown out the window a long time ago. So just take whatever positives you've got right now. This team has a little bit of momentum, and take that enjoy it for the next 4 days, and then we'll see what happens at Illinois, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it, Jeremy. We'll see what happens at Illinois. As you said, it was a pretty fun day of basketball here. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it's great basketball at all, but it was at least an entertaining game, and obviously if you're an IU fan, you certainly like the ending.
And Assembly Hall was Assembly Hall. I mean, that's what makes games here fun, basically.
Yeah, you weren't sure what you were going to get against Wisconsin from just a fan base that has been understandably, their patience has been tried all season long. But today, obviously, a hugely important game for the Big Ten, a hugely important game for Indiana. Everyone showed up and did their part. It was a pretty fun atmosphere at the old ball hall, and we'll see what kind of effort Indiana brings on Thursday night in Champaign. We'll see you there. Thanks, guys.